It's late. The room won't fully quiet, and your mind refuses to switch off. This isn't a lack of discipline. Soldiers, who have to sleep under real pressure, don't fight that racing feeling. They train a routine through it. The routine is real, and it's widely taught. But the famous promise, asleep in 2 minutes, 96% of the time, was never actually put to the test. Welcome to Sleepy Science. There's a calmer truth waiting here. This is a relaxation routine, not a magic switch. A practiced way to lower the body's alarm, breath by breath, until sleep finally has the room to arrive on its own. So let the pressure drain from your jaw, your shoulders, your hands. There is nothing to guard tonight, and nowhere you need to be. Tonight, we follow that routine gently backward, beginning with the very first thing your body loosens the moment it decides it is finally safe to rest. Tonight, settle into one gentle question and let it rest lightly in your mind. Somewhere in the middle of the last century, a routine took shape that promised something quietly remarkable, a way to move from wide awake to asleep in about the length of a slow song. It is often called the military sleep method, a short sequence of small releases you perform lying down. People pass it around as if it were a switch the body simply forgot it had. But can a 2-minute routine really teach your body to fall asleep fast, to hold that question loosely? We will follow it, unhurried, through the hours ahead, letting the answer arrive on its own rather than chasing after it. The method itself is almost plain, which is part of its quiet charm. There is nothing to buy, nothing to wear, no sound to play. You lie on your back, and you move through your body in order, letting each part grow heavy and still. The whole thing is meant to take only a couple of minutes once you have practiced it. At its heart, it is a sequence of small surrenders. You are not trying to make sleep happen so much as removing the little tensions that keep standing in its way. Think of it less as a technique you perform and more as a series of things you gently stop doing, one region of the body at a time. Before we slow down and take each step on its own, it helps to see the shape of the whole. The routine moves in 5 soft stages. First, the face softens. Yaff, tongue, and the small muscles around the eyes. Then the shoulders fall, and the arms let go, one side and then the other. Next comes a long exhale that loosens the chest. After that, the legs release, from the thighs down through the calves. And last, the mind is invited to empty, resting on a single calm image. 5 stages, moving from the top of you to the bottom, and then from the body inward. That is the entire map. Everything else is detail. Consider the face first, because it carries more quiet tension than you might expect. Your jaw, your tongue, the fine muscles ringing your eyes. These hold a low, constant readiness, even when the rest of you feels calm. The routine begins here on purpose. As the face lets go, the small furrow between the brows smooths. The tongue drifts down from the roof of the mouth, and the jaw eases open just slightly. There is a reason this comes first. The face is deeply wired to the brain's alarm circuits, so softening it sends an early, honest signal that nothing here needs guarding. You are not forcing stillness. You are simply letting the mask you have worn all day slip quietly off. Once the face has softened, the routine moves to the shoulders. And this is where many people feel the first real weight lift. All day your shoulders creep upward, gathering tension you rarely notice until it is named. So you let them drop, lower than feels natural, as if they could sink down into the bed. Then the arms follow, one side at a time. Upper arm, forearm, hand, each growing heavy in turn. Doing one side and then the other keeps your attention narrow and unhurried. There is no rush to reach the end. Each part you release becomes a small piece of evidence to the nervous system that the day, for now, is over, and that it is finally safe to set the load down. Now comes the breath, and with it, the chest. You take one slow breath and let it out long and unforced, feeling the chest fall and stay fallen. This single exhale does more than it seems. A slow out-breath gently nudges the body toward its calming branch, the part of the nervous system that lowers the heart's pace and loosens the grip of alertness. Notice that the instruction is not to breathe in some special, effortful pattern, but simply to let one breath leave and not immediately chase another. In that small pause after the exhale, the chest becomes quiet. You are learning, breath by breath. That release is something you allow rather than something you achieve. With the upper body quieted, attention travels downward to the legs. You begin at the thighs, letting the large muscles there go loose and heavy, and then move down through the calves, the ankles, and finally the feet. Legs hold a surprising amount of hidden bracing, a faint readiness to stand, to move, to carry you somewhere. Releasing them, from the top down, tells that readiness it can rest. By now, much of your body has gone still, and the stillness has a momentum of its own. Each released region seems to invite the next. There is nothing left to hold up. The whole frame of you settles toward the bed, softer and more shapeless, like something slowly sinking into warm water. The final stage turns from the body to the mind, and it is the part people find hardest. Once the body is loose, you are asked to clear your thoughts for a short while by resting on a single calm picture. In the original teaching, the images were specific. Lying in a canoe on a still lake beneath an open sky, or resting in a soft hammock inside a warm, dark room. If the images will not hold, you gently repeat a few plain words instead. Something like, "Don't think. Don't think," over and over. The point is not to fight your thoughts, but to give the mind one soft thing to lean on, so it stops reaching for the 100 other things it could be doing. It is worth knowing where this quiet routine actually came from. because the origin is more ordinary and more human than the legend around it. The method traces back to a man named Bud Winter, an American track coach who spent his career teaching athletes at San Jose State. His real obsession was not sleep, but performance. How to help a runner stay loose under pressure. How to keep a tense body from sabotaging itself in the final seconds of a race. Relaxation, to him, was a competitive tool. So the technique you are learning tonight was born on a running track and in a coach's notebook, shaped by someone who believed that letting go, done well, could be trained like any other skill. Here the story turns, and the question quietly changes shape along with it. During the Second World War, Winter was asked to bring his relaxation work to naval aviation, training young pilots who were making costly mistakes born of exhaustion and fear. In the cockpit, tension was not just uncomfortable, it blurred judgment and slowed the hands. So the routine was never really designed for restless sleepers in quiet bedrooms. It was built for frightened people in loud, dangerous places, to help them recover in stolen minutes, which gently reframes what you are truly asking. The question is no longer only whether a trick can switch off a busy mind. It is whether calm itself, under the worst conditions, can be taught. That is a larger, stranger thing. The version most people know today comes from a single book, published in 1981, called Relax and Win. By then, Winter had gathered his ideas, the athletic training, the wartime program, into one plain-spoken guide about performing well under stress. The sleep routine was only a part of it, one tool among many for staying loose when everything urged you to tighten. For decades, the book drifted near the quiet edges of memory. Then, much later, the internet found it, lifted the sleep sequence out of its pages, and passed it around as a standalone secret. So when you meet the military sleep method online, you are meeting a small fragment of a larger, older idea, retold many times over. And now the famous claim, the one that gives the method its shine, approached honestly. The book reports that after about 6 weeks of daily practice, a large share of pilots, often cited as 96%, could fall asleep within 2 minutes, even after coffee, even with the noise of gunfire nearby. It is a striking figure, and it deserves a gentle, clear caveat. That number comes from wartime recollection, not from a controlled study. No careful experiment, with measurements and comparison groups, has ever confirmed it. So hold the 96% lightly, the way you would hold any story handed down through decades. It may point at something true, but as a precise fact, it remains unproven. A claim, not a finding. You might wonder how an unproven number travels so far and lasts so long. Part of the answer is that it simply feels believable. It arrives wrapped in authority. Pilots, war, discipline, and it offers something people badly want. A quick, certain fix for a nightly struggle. A simple statistic is easy to remember and easy to repeat. And each retelling sands away the original uncertainty until the claim sounds settled. None of this makes the routine worthless. It only means the headline and the technique are two different things. The technique can be genuinely useful, even if the exact figure was never measured. Keeping those two apart. The honest method and the tall tale wrapped around it is its own kind of rest. Notice the small phrase hidden inside the original claim. 6 weeks of practice. Even in the legend, the effect was never instant. It was described as something learned slowly, the way you learn an instrument or a running stride, through nightly repetition until the body knew the sequence without being told. This detail matters because it changes what the method promises. It is not a switch you flip on the very first try. It is closer to a habit you build, a path worn smooth by walking it. If you try the routine once and lie there, still awake, that is not failure. It is simply the first night of a longer practice. And the practice, not the trick, is where whatever benefit exists most likely lives. Underneath every step of this routine sits one plain truth about sleep. And it is worth saying slowly. You cannot force sleep to come. Sleep is not an action you perform, like lifting an arm. It is something that happens to you when the conditions are right. A door that opens only when you stop pushing on it. This is why trying harder to sleep so often backfires. Effort is a form of alertness, and alertness is exactly what sleep waits for you to release. The military method quietly understands this. Nowhere does it tell you to make yourself sleep. Every instruction is about letting go, about subtracting tension rather than adding effort. It works. If it works, by clearing the way and then stepping out of it. To understand why letting go matters, it helps to meet the word arousal, not in its dramatic sense, but as sleep scientists mean it. Arousal is simply your level of activation. How fast the heart beats, how tightly the muscles are held, how watchful the mind stays. In the daytime, this readiness serves you well. At night, it is the very thing standing between you and sleep. High arousal keeps the door shut. When arousal falls, heart slowing, muscles loosening, thoughts drifting apart, the door eases open on its own. So the whole aim of the routine, beneath its 5 gentle steps, is a single quiet movement to lower the body's arousal far enough that sleep no longer has anything left to wait for. There is a cruel little loop that many restless sleepers know by heart. You lie down tired. You cannot sleep. So you begin to try. And the trying wakes you further, which makes you try harder still. Researchers who study sleeplessness have a name for the state underneath this loop. Hyperarousal, a nervous system stuck in too high a gear at exactly the wrong hour. The harder you chase sleep, the more you feed the very alertness that keeps it away. Seen this way, the value of a relaxation routine is not that it summons sleep, but that it gives your attention a gentle job to do, softening the body, so it stops straining after sleep and, in stopping, lets the gear finally drop. The military method may feel modern, but its real ancestor is nearly a century old. In the early 1900s, a physician named Edmund Jacobson noticed that anxious patients carried their worry as physical tension, and that teaching them to release muscles, one group at a time, calmed the mind as well. He called it progressive relaxation, and it became one of the most studied calming techniques there is. If the 5 steps you learn tonight feel familiar in spirit, this is why. They are a shortened, plain-clothes version of Jacobson's careful work. The routine science, in other words, is not new or mysterious. It rests on a solid, well-worn foundation. The simple, repeatable finding that a loosened body helps quiet a busy mind. It helps to notice that your nighttime restlessness usually comes in 2 flavors, and the routine was built to meet both. There is bodily tension, the clenched jaw, the braced shoulders, the legs that will not go slack. And there is mental tension, the churning thoughts, the replays, the planning that will not switch off. The first 4 steps of the method speak to the body, releasing region after region. The 5th step speaks to the mind, giving it a single calm image to hold. Many quick fixes address only one of these and leave the other quietly humming. What makes this old routine sensible is that it reaches for both at once, loosening the body and settling the mind in the same unhurried sweep. Return for a moment to that single long exhale, because it carries more weight than its small place suggests. Your breathing is one of the few bridges between the parts of you that you command and the parts that run on their own. When you let a breath out slowly and do not rush the next one in, you send a soft message along that bridge, nudging the calming branch of the nervous system to take the lead. The heart's pace loosens slightly. The sense of urgency thins. This is why so many relaxation practices, ancient and modern, begin at the breath. The military routine uses only one deliberate exhale, but it places it well, right as the chest is ready to fall and stay fallen. Consider the quiet power of the calm image in the final step. The canoe on the still lake, the dark and silent room. Asking the mind to picture such a scene is not idle daydreaming. A vivid, gentle image gives your attention somewhere soft to rest. And while it rests there, it is not busy rehearsing tomorrow or replaying today. In a sense, the picture crowds out the worry, not by fighting it, but by filling the space it would have used. This is why the original teaching chose scenes that were still, safe, and slightly dull. Nothing to solve, nothing to fear. The image is not meant to entertain you. It is meant to occupy the part of you that would otherwise keep the lights on. And if the images will not come, the routine offers a plainer tool, quietly repeating a few simple words. Something like, "Don't think. Don't think." For a short stretch. This sounds almost too basic to matter, yet it leans on a real quirk of the mind. The inner voice you use to worry and the inner voice you use to repeat those words are the same voice. and it can only say one thing at a time. By filling that channel with a soft, meaningless phrase, you leave no room for the anxious sentences that usually run there. You are not silencing the mind by force. You are simply handing it something harmless to murmur, so it stops narrating the whole of the night. Step back and notice what all 5 stages quietly share. Each one takes your attention and points it somewhere specific and kind. The softening jaw, the falling shoulders, the leaving breath, the heavy legs, the still lake. None of them point at sleep itself. This is the routine's gentlest bit of wisdom. By giving attention a small, pleasant task, it lures your focus away from the anxious project of trying to fall asleep, which, as you now know, only keeps you awake. In a way, the whole method is a kind of soft misdirection performed for your own benefit, occupying the watchful mind with harmless, soothing work until, almost without your noticing, the watching itself dissolves and sleep slips quietly through. It is only fair to set your expectations gently before we go any deeper. For most people, on most nights, falling asleep in a clean 2 minutes is optimistic. Sleep rarely keeps such precise schedules. How quickly you drift off depends on how tired you are, how tightly the day still holds you, and how long you have practiced. On some nights, the routine will feel like magic, and on others, it will simply leave you a little calmer than before, still awake. Both are fine. The method is best understood not as a promise of speed, but as a skill for lowering arousal. And lowering arousal is worth something on its own, even on the nights when sleep takes its time to arrive. So let us gather what these first stretches have shown, without tying it too tightly. 2 threads have run side by side. One is a story, the wartime pilots, the 96%, the 2 clean minutes. A story we have agreed to hold lightly, since no careful study has ever confirmed it. The other is a mechanism, older and steadier, that sleep cannot be forced, only allowed, and that lowering the body's arousal is how you clear its path. The headline may be folklore. The principle beneath it is not. And that leaves a quieter question waiting for the hours ahead. Not whether the trick is fast, but what actually happens inside a body as its arousal falls away. That is where we turn next. By now, your jaw has likely loosened and your shoulders have drifted down without your asking. A soft subscribe helps another restless body find its way to this quiet too. Let's breathe here together, one sleepy soul at a time. Right now, the tension you spent the day carrying is already ebbing. The jaw a little slacker, the shoulders lower than they were an hour ago. Not because you commanded it, because you stopped adding to it. That falling you just heard named arousal easing, the door to sleep swinging quietly open, is not a theory happening to someone else. It is happening in you, in this bed, at this very moment, whether or not you can feel each small release. The question that just opened, What actually unfolds inside a body as its arousal drains away lives exactly here, in the warmth spreading through your loosened limbs. Let one more breath leave, unhurried. The next stretch of the night begins to follow that warmth inward. Inside you, two quiet systems take turns running the body. One is built for action. It speeds the heart, tightens the muscles, and sharpens the senses for whatever might come next. The other is built for recovery, and it does the opposite, slowing everything down so the body can heal and rest. Scientists call them the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of the autonomic nervous system. Most nights, sleep struggles because the first branch is still quietly holding the wheel. The military relaxation method is, at its heart, a way of handing that wheel over, of letting the resting branch take charge, gently, without any force at all. There is a single nerve that carries much of this calming signal, and it may be the most important one you have never thought about. The vagus nerve begins in the brainstem and wanders down through the neck and chest into the heart, the lungs, and the gut. Its very name comes from the Latin word for wandering. When this nerve grows active, it whispers to the heart to slow, to the breath to deepen, to the whole body to stand down. The method does not touch the vagus nerve directly. It simply creates the conditions: stillness, slow breath, released muscles, in which that ancient nerve can quietly do its work. When the resting branch takes over, the body enters what physiologists call the rest and digest state. Blood flow returns to the stomach and intestines. Saliva increases. The pupils narrow. The heart, no longer braced for emergency, settles into a slower, steadier rhythm. This is the body's natural repair mode, the state it was designed to spend its quiet hours in. Falling asleep is not really a single event that happens all at once. It is the slow arrival of this state, spreading through the body like warmth through cold hands. The military method works by inviting that arrival a little sooner than it might have come on its own. Here is something the body rarely lets us notice. Tension travels in both directions. We already know the brain can tighten a muscle. What we tend to forget is that a tight muscle also speaks back to the brain. Tense fibers send a steady stream of signals upward, and the brain reads that tension as a quiet message. Something here still needs watching. As long as the jaw is clenched or the shoulders are raised, part of the mind stays faintly on duty. Releasing those muscles cuts the message off at its source. The brain, hearing nothing urgent rising from the body, slowly begins to lower its own guard as well. Notice, if you can, the small muscles around your eyes and forehead right now. The military method begins here, with the face, and there is a good reason for that. The face holds one of the densest concentrations of nerve endings in the body, and it is deeply wired into the brain's emotional centers. A furrowed brow or a tight jaw feeds arousal upward almost instantly. A soft, slack face feeds calm in exactly the same way. By letting the forehead smooth, the eyes grow heavy, and the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. You send one of the strongest signals the body has that the day is finally done. The sweep you are following has a name and a lineage. It is a stripped-down form of progressive muscle relaxation. The calming method Edmund Jacobson mapped out a century ago, and which decades of research have supported since. The word progressive is the important part. You move through the body in order, and each region you release seems to give the next one permission to let go a little further. A loosened jaw eases the shoulders. Softened shoulders invite the arms down. The military method borrows exactly this cascade, moving group by group from the face toward the feet. Each release is small on its own. Together, they carry the whole body down toward the threshold of sleep. Rest one hand on your belly and breathe so that the hand gently rises. This is diaphragmatic breathing, the slow and deep kind that begins low in the torso rather than high in the chest. When the diaphragm drops fully, the lungs fill from the bottom, and something quiet happens to the heart. Deep, unhurried breaths softly stretch the lungs and stimulate the calming branch of the nervous system, and the heart rate begins to fall. Shallow chest breathing does the opposite, keeping the body faintly on alert. Much of the military method's power rests right here, in the simple shift from breathing high and fast to breathing low and slow. There is a small asymmetry hidden inside every breath. When you breathe in, the heart speeds up a little. When you breathe out, it slows back down. This gentle rise and fall is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it is a sign of a healthy, responsive nervous system. Because the exhale is where the slowing quietly happens. Lengthening your out-breath tips the whole balance toward calm. Breathe out slowly, a little longer than you breathe in, and the vagus nerve strengthens its calming pull on the heart with each release. The body finds it hard to stay anxious while the breath keeps leaving in long, unhurried streams. Between one heartbeat and the next, the timing is never perfectly even. That tiny, constant variation has a name: heart rate variability, and it turns out to be one of the clearest windows into the resting nervous system. When the calming branch is in charge, the intervals between beats vary more freely, a sign of a body able to shift and adapt. When stress dominates, the beats grow rigid and metronomic. As you settle into stillness and slow breathing, this variability tends to rise. You will never feel it directly, and yet it is quietly registering, beat by beat, how deeply your body has begun to let go tonight. For much of a busy day, two messengers circulate through the blood: adrenaline, which acts within seconds, and cortisol, which lingers for hours. Together, they keep the body ready, alert, and slightly braced against the world. At night, they are meant to recede, and sleep quietly depends on their retreat. But a racing mind can keep them elevated long after the lights go out, which is why lying down is not the same as winding down. When the body relaxes deeply, the system that releases these messengers grows still, and their levels begin to drift lower. The military method is, in part, a way of telling that old alarm system it can finally rest. Bring your attention, for a moment, to your shoulders. For many people, they sit slightly raised, drawn faintly toward the ears, holding a tension so familiar it feels like nothing at all. The hands, too, often stay half-curled, quietly ready. These are among the last places the body chooses to let go, and among the most telling. When the shoulders drop and the fingers uncurl and grow heavy, the body loses one of its main ways of bracing against the world. There is nothing left to hold on with. That physical surrender is not a metaphor. It is a real signal, traveling inward, that no threat requires the body's grip tonight. Consider what happens when the body braces and never quite releases. The tension feeds the brain. The alerted brain tightens the body a little further. And the two keep each other awake in a quiet loop that can run for hours. This is why effort so often fails at bedtime. Trying hard to sleep tightens the very muscles that signal wakefulness. The military method interrupts the loop from the body's side. By deliberately loosening each muscle group in turn, you remove the tension that was feeding the alarm, and the alarm, with nothing left to respond to, begins to fade. The body stops arguing with itself, and stillness finally has room to grow. Woven into the walls of your major arteries are tiny pressure sensors called baroreceptors, constantly measuring the force of the blood as it passes. They are part of a feedback system that helps set the pace of the heart. As the muscles release and slow breathing takes hold, blood pressure gently eases, and these sensors register the change, signaling the brainstem that the body can safely slow further still. It becomes a gentle, self-reinforcing descent. Relaxation lowers pressure, and lowered pressure invites still more relaxation. You do nothing to command it. You simply stop interrupting it, and the body's own quiet instruments guide it down toward the soft edge of sleep. There is an old assumption that the mind leads and the body follows, that you must first quiet your thoughts before your body can rest. The science of interoception suggests the reverse is just as true. The brain is constantly listening to the body, reading the heartbeat, the breath, and the tension held in the muscles. And it builds its sense of how safe you are, largely from what it hears. Give it a slow heart, an easy breath, a loose and heavy body, and it draws the natural conclusion: all is well. A calm mind, it turns out, is often something the body offers first, and the mind gratefully accepts. Step back, and one quiet pattern runs through everything the body has shown us tonight. The face, the breath, the shoulders, the heart. None of them wait for permission from the thinking mind. Each speaks its own soft language of safety, and the military method simply lets them speak in the right order. We began by asking whether 2 minutes of relaxation could truly train the body to sleep. The mechanics suggest the body already knows how. The routine only clears the interference. Yet knowing the path is not the same as walking it easily. Why the same technique frees one person in minutes and eludes another for weeks is where our journey turns next. Something in your body has already begun to loosen. You may have felt it without ever deciding to. Take one slow breath and let the out-breath last a little longer than the in. Feel the shoulders drop, the jaw soften, the hands grow heavy against the bed. We're moving through the quiet mechanics of rest together, in no hurry at all. Let's keep going, slowly. The method you're about to move through was shaped during the Second World War, when a coach named Bud Winter was asked to help exhausted pilots rest under impossible pressure. What he built was simple. A short sequence that works down the body from the face to the feet, then quiets the mind. It asks for no equipment and no perfect conditions. Only a place to lie down and a little willingness. Tonight, you can follow it exactly as the aviators did. We'll take each part slowly, far more slowly than 2 minutes, so your body has room to learn the shape of letting go. Begin with your face, because it holds more quiet tension than almost anywhere else in the body. Across your forehead lies a broad, flat muscle that lifts your brows and creases them when you think or worry. Let it go completely. Imagine the skin of your forehead growing smooth and wide, the small vertical lines between your brows softening and spreading apart. There's a curious loop here. The face doesn't only show how you feel, it gently tells the brain how to feel. As the forehead unclenches, it sends a message inward that nothing here requires effort. Let that message settle. Let the whole upper face grow still. Now move down to your jaw, home to one of the strongest muscles in the body for its size. All day it clenches without asking permission. While you focus, while you drive, while you sleep poorly. Let your teeth part slightly, so the upper and lower rows no longer touch. Feel the hinge near your ears loosen and drop. Let your tongue rest wherever it falls, no longer pressed against the roof of your mouth. As the jaw releases, the muscles of the throat and the base of the skull follow, because they're all quietly connected. A loosened jaw is one of the body's oldest signals of safety. Let your attention drift to your eyes, even with the lids already closed. Ringing each eye is a delicate band of muscle, and behind the lids sit smaller muscles, still, the ones that aim your gaze. Through the day, they dart and adjust thousands of times over. Now let them stop. Allow your eyes to grow heavy and motionless in their sockets, sinking back as though they no longer need to look for anything. Feel the tiny flutter beneath your lids slow, and then fade. When the eyes go truly still, the mind tends to follow, because so much of thinking is really a kind of looking. Let both grow quiet together. With the face at rest, turn your notice to your shoulders. Under stress, they rise slowly toward your ears, a bracing you rarely feel until it aches. The muscle responsible spreads across your upper back and neck like a wide, draped cloth, and it carries tension long after the reason for it has passed. Let your shoulders drop now, not pushed down, simply released. falling away from your ears toward the surface beneath you. Picture the space between your shoulders and neck growing longer and softer. With each small release, the upper body sinks a little deeper into the bed, and the bracing you've held all day begins, at last, to loosen. From the shoulders, let the release flow down each arm in turn. Begin on one side. Let the upper arm grow heavy, then the forearm, then the hand, then each finger, until the whole limb feels loose and weighted, resting entirely on the bed. Then let the other arm follow the same slow path. This heaviness isn't imagined. It's the real feeling of muscle fibers releasing their hold, no longer bracing against gravity. As the arms go slack, the small muscles of the hands unfurl, the fingers curling gently open. Let both arms lie there, too heavy to lift, as though they've been set down softly for the night. Come now to your breath and the wide muscles of your chest. Take one slow breath in, and as you let it out, let the out-breath be longer and softer than the in-breath. On that exhale, feel the chest loosen and fall, the ribs settling, the space around your heart growing easy. There's a reason a long exhale calms you so reliably. The slow release of breath gently touches a nerve that runs from the brain down through the chest. And that nerve, when soothed, tells the heart to slow. You don't have to force it. Simply let each breath out carry a little more of the day away with it. Let the softening travel down into your legs, the largest muscles you carry. Start at your hips and let them loosen where they meet the bed. Then the long muscles of your thighs, releasing their hold. Then the knees, unlocking. Then your calves, growing heavy and warm. Finally, your feet, and each, too. Let them go slack and still. These big muscles store a great deal of the day's readiness. The standing, the walking, the quiet holding on. As they release from the hips downward, a wave of heaviness moves through your lower body, and your legs settle fully into the surface, no longer holding any part of you upright. With the body released, only the mind remains. And here the method turns gentle rather than forceful. Rather than fighting your thoughts, you give them one soft place to rest, a single calm scene held quietly in view. The old instruction was to picture yourself lying in a canoe on a still lake, a blue sky above, nothing moving but the faint drift of the water. You might choose that, or a warm hammock swaying slowly between two trees. Holding one peaceful image gives the busy, wandering mind something simple to do, so it stops reaching for the worries of the day. Let your chosen scene grow soft and unhurried around you. If no image will hold, there's a second doorway, just as gentle. For about 10 seconds, let your mind repeat the soft words, "Don't think. Don't think," over and over. It sounds almost too simple, yet it works by crowding out the sentences that keep you awake. There's little room for tomorrow's worries when this quiet phrase fills the space instead. And here the question we began with quietly turns. We asked whether 2 minutes could make the body fall asleep. But step by step, it hasn't forced sleep at all. It has only loosened the tension that held sleep away. What waits beneath, once the holding stops, is where the rest of the night leads. You've just walked your whole body toward release. The face, the shoulders, the arms, the chest, the legs. And some of that letting go is happening in you right now, without any effort on your part. Maybe you can feel one place that's still holding. The back of the neck, perhaps, or somewhere behind the eyes. You don't have to solve it. Just let it be loosened, the way the rest of you has already begun to loosen. The tightness that resists rest is so often the same tightness that carried the whole day. It can be set down here. Let this next part of the night lean a little further into that softening. Let your breath keep moving on its own, longer on the way out. The quieter half is only beginning. Long before anyone called this a military routine, its first pillar was taking shape in Edmund Jacobson's laboratory. In the 1920s, watching anxious people who were never truly still, muscles holding a faint, constant tension even as they lay at rest. He came to believe that an agitated mind and a tense body were two names for one event. If that was true, then softening the body might quiet the mind. From this quiet observation grew the fuller science of progressive muscle relaxation, the pillar the military method would later borrow without ever saying his name. Jacobson's insight was that most of us cannot relax a muscle we cannot feel. So he taught people to do something almost paradoxical: to tighten a muscle first, deliberately, and then let it go. By clenching the hand and releasing it, you learn the exact sensation of tension leaving. Over many sessions, his students grew fluent in their own bodies, able to find and release a held jaw or a braced shoulder at will. He called it progressive because you move through the body in order, part by part, letting each one drop a little deeper than the one before. What made Jacobson more than a gentle teacher was that he measured things. He helped develop early instruments sensitive enough to detect the tiny electrical signals muscles give off, even when they seem at rest. With them, he could show that a person who felt calm might still be holding measurable tension in the brow or the forearm. And he could watch that signal fall as they practiced letting go. The relaxed body, it turned out, was not a mood or a feeling. It was a physical state you could record on a page, and slowly, deliberately learn to enter. Decades later, Jacobson's practice has held up in a way many old ideas do not. A shortened form of progressive muscle relaxation now sits inside the standard evidence-based treatment for chronic insomnia. Sleep researchers keep it because trials return the same modest, real result. People who tense and release their way through the body tend to fall asleep a little sooner and wake a little less. It is not dramatic. It rarely cures anything overnight. But it is one of the few relaxation tools with genuine clinical support behind it, which is exactly why the military method leans on it so heavily. Look closely at the first half of the military routine, and you are looking at Jacobson. Compressed. Relax the forehead. Let the jaw fall slack. Drop the shoulders as low as they will go. Then the upper arms. Then the hands. This is his progression. Stripped to its fastest form. No tensing first. Just a guided sweep of release from the face downward. The method trusts that with practice, you no longer need to clench a muscle to find it. You have already learned, over many quiet nights, where you hold your day and how to let that holding go. The routine's next move is a breath. And here, a second, older piece of science enters. When the method asks you to exhale and let your chest sink, it is reaching for the diaphragm, the broad muscle beneath your lungs. Breathe high and shallow in the chest, and the body reads it as urgency. Let the belly rise and fall with a slow, full breath, and something shifts. The nervous system has two broad settings, one tuned for effort, one for recovery. Slow breathing from the diaphragm is one of the very few switches between them you can reach by hand. That switch runs largely along the vagus nerve, a long, wandering pathway between the brainstem and the organs. It carries the signals of the body's recovery mode, slowing the heart, softening the gut, lowering the quiet hum of alarm. The vagus is especially busy as you breathe out. With every exhale, it gently taps the brakes on your heartbeat. With every inhale, it eases off again. This is why a long, unhurried exhale feels like a letting go you can almost hear. You are not imagining the calm. You are stimulating the very nerve whose task is to produce it. You can feel this rhythm for yourself if you rest a hand on your chest and breathe slowly. As you draw the air in, your heart quickens, just slightly. As you let it out, it slows. This gentle oscillation has a name: respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and far from being a fault. It is a sign of a flexible, healthy nervous system. Slow breathing widens the swing, deepening the slowdown on each exhale. The military method never explains a word of this. It simply tells a tired pilot to breathe out and release the chest, and lets the old machinery do the rest. Researchers who study breathing have found a curious sweet spot. When people slow to roughly 6 breaths a minute, about a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale, the heart's natural rhythm and the breath fall into step, and the whole system seems to resonate. Blood pressure eases. A sense of steadiness returns. It is slow, but never strained, deep, but never forced. You do not need a stopwatch to find this pace. The rhythm that feels unhurried and comfortable is usually close enough, and with a little practice, the body begins drifting toward it on its own. Of all the reasons a person lies awake, one is nearly universal: a mind and body that are simply too switched on. Sleep scientists call it hyperarousal, and it is the wall the military method is really trying to lower. Slow, diaphragmatic breathing has real evidence behind it here. Careful studies find it can lower the heart rate, ease muscle tension, and quiet the racing quality of thought that holds sleep away. It does not force sleep. Nothing can. But it removes one of the most common obstacles standing in the way, which is often enough to let sleep quietly arrive. Now comes the strangest and most important part of the routine, the final 10 seconds, when you are asked to empty the mind. Anyone who has tried it knows how impossible that sounds. Tell yourself to think of nothing, and the nothing fills instantly with everything. The method's original teacher understood this well. He never asked for a blank mind. He offered a picture instead, lying in a canoe on a still lake beneath a wide blue sky, or resting in a black velvet hammock in a warm, dark room. Not emptiness at all. A single, gentle place to set your attention down. There is a reason a vivid image works better than an order to stop thinking. The part of the mind that keeps you awake is largely a talker. It rehearses conversations, lists tomorrow's worries, narrates the whole long day. A rich sensory scene gives that verbal machinery something to do that leads nowhere and asks nothing. Picture the water, the sky, the slight sway of the canoe, and the inner voice has less room to spin its anxious sentences. You are not fighting the thoughts head-on. You are quietly crowding them out with something softer that has no argument left to make. A modern version of this idea even has a name: cognitive shuffling. A cognitive scientist studying sleep noticed that the drifting mind at sleep's edge naturally wanders through loose, unconnected images. So he suggested imitating it on purpose. Pick a word, and picture each of its letters as a thing. Apple, arch, antler. Then move on to another word. Another loose parade of images. The pictures must not link into a story, because a story pulls you forward and awake. This deliberate, meaningless drift mimics the mind's own path into sleep, and for many people, it gently loosens the grip of thought. For those who cannot summon a clear picture, the old routine offered a plainer tool. Repeat the words, "Don't think. Don't think. Don't think." Slowly, for about 10 seconds. It sounds almost too simple to matter. But a short, dull phrase, said gently on repeat, occupies the same verbal channel that would otherwise be narrating your worries. It is a placeholder for attention, nothing grander than that. The point was never the words themselves. The point was to hand the restless, talking mind one small, harmless thing to hold, until the holding itself began to soften and slip. Step back now, and the routine stops looking like a single trick. It is 3 separate, well-studied tools laid end to end, releasing the muscles, slowing the breath, and quieting the talking mind. Each one, on its own, has been shown to lower the arousal that blocks sleep. And here, the question we began with quietly turns. Perhaps the 2 minutes were never the active ingredient at all. Perhaps what matters is that 3 genuine relaxation methods have been folded into one short, repeatable sequence. small enough to actually do, and to keep doing, night after night, until the body knows it by heart. This is where a detail most people skip becomes the whole story. The routine was never meant to work the very first time you tried it. Its original teacher told his students to practice it for 6 weeks before judging it at all. That instruction is easy to ignore and easy to mistake for a sales pitch. But it points at something genuinely true about the body. Relaxation, like any physical skill, grows faster and deeper with rehearsal. The first attempts feel clumsy and slow, and that is normal. What you are building across those weeks is not belief. It is a trained, bodily reflex. Part of what forms over those weeks is a kind of learned association. Do the same sequence, in the same order, in the same place each night, and the sequence itself becomes a signal. The body begins to read the first slack of the jaw as the opening note of a familiar song whose ending is sleep. Psychologists have understood this kind of conditioning for well over a century. Pair a cue with a state often enough, and the cue alone starts to summon the state. The routine, repeated faithfully, slowly turns into a doorway your body learns to walk through on its own. This is why sleep specialists often speak of sleep as something closer to a skill than a switch. Much of their standard guidance works the same way the military routine does, by building reliable signals and repeating them until the body comes to trust them. Keep the bed for sleep. Follow a steady wind down. Return to the same cues each night. None of it forces anything at all. All of it teaches. Seen this way, the routine is not a spell whispered once, but a small nightly rehearsal, patiently training a nervous system to recognize the road toward rest. The popular version of this method promises sleep in 2 minutes, and that promise, told too eagerly, does a quiet disservice. It sets you up to test the routine once. Lie there, still wide awake, and decide it has failed you. But nothing about relaxation is instant on the first attempt. The 2 minutes describe a trained endpoint, not a starting line. Expecting the finished result from the very first night is like expecting to swim smoothly the first time you step into the water. The speed may be real for a few, but it is earned slowly, and it almost never arrives on schedule. It also helps to know that this routine will not fit everyone in the same way. Some people relax most through the body and barely need the image. Others quiet fastest through the breath, or through the drifting pictures, and find the muscle sweep almost beside the point. A mind that thinks in words may love the repeated phrase. A visual mind may sink straight into the canoe on the lake. There is no single correct version to master. The wiser approach is to treat the 4 parts as a small toolkit, and lean hardest on whichever one your particular nervous system answers to. Here, honesty matters more than enthusiasm. Each ingredient of this routine stands on real ground. Muscle relaxation, slow breathing, and calming imagery all have published support for easing the arousal that delays sleep. But the specific package, in this exact order, with its famous promise, has never been put through a proper controlled trial. No study has quietly measured a room of people using this precise sequence against a room that did not. So the parts are evidence-based. The whole, as it is sold, is not yet tested. That gap is worth holding gently in mind, without letting it dismiss the method. The often quoted figure that 96% of people succeed after 6 weeks deserves the same clear eyes. It comes from a book written decades ago by a track coach who worked with naval aviators during wartime, teaching them to rest under enormous strain. It is a compelling story, and quite possibly true for those particular pilots. But it was never a laboratory result. No control group, no careful measurement, no independent check. Treat that number as a coach's hopeful account rather than a scientific finding, and you can still respect the method fully without leaning on a statistic it cannot support. Some of what a routine like this delivers surely comes from expectation itself. The calm of following a trusted plan. The relief of having something to do instead of lying there helpless. That is often waved away as mere placebo, as if it did not really count. But in the world of sleep, a settled, unpressured mind is not a trick to be discounted. It is close to the whole goal. If a simple ritual lowers your arousal partly because you believe in it, the lowered arousal is still real, and sleep responds to what is real in the body. So what can you honestly say to a tired person about this routine? That it is safe, that it costs nothing, and that it gathers several genuinely helpful tools into one short, learnable shape. That it may not work tonight, and probably will not feel like magic. That it rewards patience across weeks far more than it rewards a single hopeful attempt. This is a gentler promise than the one you find online, but it is a truer one, and a truer promise. Oddly, tends to survive the disappointment of the first few nights. In a way, the miracle version never quite can. And so the shape of an answer finally settles. The military sleep method is not magic, and it was never truly a secret. It is 3 well-studied ways of lowering the body's arousal, loosening the muscles, slowing the breath, quieting the inner voice, stacked together and turned, through repetition, into a habit. Its real power lives not in the famous 2-minute promise, but in the practice underneath it. The ordinary, nightly rehearsal that teaches a nervous system the way down. The mechanism is solid. The miracle was never the point. The quiet steadiness is, notice how little you are doing right now. The jaw you softened a while ago has stayed soft on its own. The breath you slowed has kept its slower rhythm without being asked. This is the whole quiet truth of the method. Arriving in your own body, not a command you force, but a road you have traveled enough times that it begins to carry you. You do not have to make sleep happen tonight. You only have to let the practice do what practice does. The way down is already underneath you, and the last of the effort can go. Tonight, remember that this routine was never meant to work perfectly on the first try. The soldiers who learned it practiced for weeks before it felt natural. Your body is learning a new sequence. the way it once learned to ride a bicycle or float in water. Each night you repeat it. The steps grow more familiar. Give yourself the same patience you would offer anyone learning something gentle and new. Notice how a familiar path feels easier each time you walk it. The same is true here. When you relax your face, your shoulders, and your legs in the same order every night, your body begins to link that sequence with letting go. Scientists call this conditioning, a quiet association formed through repetition. Over time, simply beginning the routine can signal to your nervous system that the day is done, and rest may follow. There is no need to expect sleep in exactly 2 minutes. That number is a hopeful headline, not a promise your body must keep. The original teachers allowed about 6 weeks of practice before the method felt reliable. And even then, some nights took longer. Falling asleep in a few quiet minutes is a beautiful outcome, not a rule. Let the timing be whatever it is tonight, and let that be enough. Consider that the true aim of this practice is not unconsciousness, but calm. A relaxed body, slower breath, softer muscles, a quieter mind is the real destination. Sleep tends to arrive on its own once arousal falls low enough. So rather than chasing sleep directly, you are simply lowering the noise. If your body feels heavy and peaceful, the method is already working, whether or not sleep has come yet. When you try very hard to fall asleep, something curious happens. The effort itself keeps you awake. Researchers call this sleep effort, and it gently raises alertness at the very moment you want less of it. The way through is softer. You are not forcing a door open, you are letting it drift. Loosen the trying. Allow sleep to be something that happens to you, not a task you must complete. If your mind wanders away from the routine, and it will, there is nothing to fix. A wandering mind is not a broken one. It is simply doing what minds do. The moment you notice you have drifted, you have already returned. Without judgment, without frustration, guide your attention back to your breath or your heavy limbs. Each gentle return is the practice itself, not a failure of it. Sometimes thoughts keep circling, refusing to quiet. On those nights, you can try a small trick called cognitive shuffling. Picture a series of random, unrelated things. A lantern, a leaf, a spoon, a distant hill, with no story connecting them. This scattering loosens the mind's grip on worry and echoes the loose, drifting images that naturally appear as sleep approaches. Let each picture float up and dissolve, asking nothing of you. The final step of the method asks for a few seconds of stillness in the mind. Many people find it easier to rest on a single, calm image, lying in a canoe on a quiet lake beneath a soft sky, or settling into a warm hammock in a dark, still room. If images feel like effort, you can simply repeat, gently, don't think, don't think. Either way, you give the mind one soft place to land. This routine works best when it is not carrying the whole night alone. The habits around it matter too. A consistent wake-up time teaches your body when to feel sleepy. A room that is cool, dark, and quiet invites rest. These small conditions are like good soil. They do not force the flower, but they let it grow. The method becomes easier when the night around it already leans toward sleep. Give yourself a little runway before you begin. Moving straight from a bright screen into the routine asks a great deal of your nervous system. A short wind down, dimmed lights, a slower pace, perhaps a few unhurried breaths, softens the edges of the day first. Then the method has less to undo. Think of it as landing an aircraft gently rather than dropping suddenly from the sky. The descent can be smooth. Your body has its own signal for sleep, written in temperature. As evening deepens, melatonin, the hormone of night, begins to rise, and your core warmth begins to fall, the two easing downward together toward rest. A warm bath an hour before bed can help this along. Oddly, by drawing heat to the surface so your center cools afterward. When you lie down and feel your hands and feet grow warm, that is, your body releasing heat exactly as it was made to. You can use this same routine in daylight for a short rest. A brief nap of 10 or 20 minutes can restore alertness without leaving you groggy. Lie down. Move through the sequence. Face, shoulders, arms, legs, and let the mind settle on one calm image. You may not fall fully asleep, and that is fine. Even a few minutes of deep quiet can steady a tired afternoon and soften what comes next. On the hardest nights, when the day still hums beneath your skin, expect the method to take longer. When stress is high, the body carries more adrenaline, and it needs more time to come down. This is not the routine failing, it is the routine working against a stronger current. Move through the steps slowly, more than once if you need to. The calm will come, perhaps not quickly, but it will come. Beneath every step of this practice lies one quiet anchor: your breath. A slow, gentle exhale, a little longer than the inhale, speaks directly to the vagus nerve, which signals your body to soften. Heart rate eases. Muscles loosen. You do not need to breathe perfectly or deeply, only kindly. Let each out-breath be a small letting go, as though you were setting something down that you have carried all day. Somewhere across these many facts, the question has quietly changed. You began by asking whether 2 minutes could train your body to sleep. But the practice has revealed something softer. This was never about speed. It was about teaching your body that it is safe to let go, a little more each night. The moments ahead carry a different weight now. Not instructions to follow, but a permission to feel. What began as a method is becoming simply a way to rest. Return your attention to your face for a moment. It holds more tension than we notice. The small muscles around the eyes, the quiet clench of the jaw, the tongue pressed to the roof of the mouth. When these release, your brain reads it as a sign of safety, and the whole body follows. Let your face go slack, expressionless, soft as a sleeping child's. This single release can begin the whole descent. Your shoulders and hands carry the day quietly. Notice where they still hold on, perhaps lifted slightly, perhaps curled. Let your shoulders drop, first one, then the other, as though someone gently pressed them down. Let your arms grow heavy, your fingers uncurl and rest. This is where much of our tension hides, waiting to be noticed. As they loosen, you may feel the bed take a little more of your weight. Now let the heaviness travel downward, into your legs. Feel your thighs soften, your calves release, your feet fall gently outward. There is a particular peace in letting the largest muscles simply give up their holding. The body was never meant to guard itself through the night. As your legs sink into the mattress, notice how little you need to do. Gravity is doing the work. You only have to allow it. Consistency, more than intensity, is what makes this practice take root. It is better to move through the steps calmly every night than to try hard once and then forget. The same order, at roughly the same hour, becomes a rhythm your body can trust. You are not building a skill through struggle, but through repetition. The way a path forms not from one heavy footstep, but from many soft ones, returning again and again. Some nights, sleep simply will not come. And this, too, is part of being human. It does not mean the method has failed or that something is wrong with you. Rest itself, even without sleep, still restores. Lying quietly with a calm body lowers your heart rate and eases your mind more than tossing in frustration ever could. If sleep stays away tonight, let stillness be enough. The sleep will find its own way back. There is quiet value in simply lying still, even awake. Researchers have found that calm, restful wakefulness, eyes closed, body relaxed, breathing slow, reduces the body's stress load and prepares the ground for sleep. You are not wasting the night by resting. You are lowering the tide. So if wakefulness lingers, release the worry about it, and let the rest you are already giving your body be its own gentle gift. Speak to yourself kindly through all of this. The tone of your inner voice matters more than you might think. Harsh self-talk keeps the body alert, while gentleness lets it soften. If tonight is difficult, you might simply tell yourself, "This is enough. I am allowed to rest." There is no test being graded here, no one keeping score. Only you, and your breath, and the quiet permission to be exactly as tired as you are. Let this method be a companion rather than a challenge. It is not a lock you must pick correctly, nor a performance to get right. It is more like a familiar hand on your shoulder at the end of a long day, guiding you gently toward rest. When you stop treating sleep as something to achieve, and start treating it as something to receive. The whole practice grows lighter. And so, quietly, do you? Slowly. Now, let go of the outcome entirely. Whether sleep comes in 2 minutes or 20, whether tonight is easy or slow, you have already done the gentlest thing you can do. You have softened, breathed, and set the day down. The rest is not yours to force. Release even the wish to fall asleep, and let your body drift wherever it drifts. There is nowhere else you need to be but here. You don't have to force sleep like a mission. Just soften and breathe, and let each muscle set down its weight, un by un, until there is nothing left to hold. The body knows the way home. It always has. Let your face grow still, your shoulders fall, your legs grow heavy and warm. And in that quiet settling, without effort or urgency, let rest come and find you, the way it was always meant to. At the start of this quiet hour, you wondered whether a 2-minute routine could teach your body to sleep on command. Now the answer feels softer than the question. You followed the sequence from the small muscles of the face down through the shoulders, the arms, the heavy legs. You learned that trying too hard is what keeps the door closed, and that a wandering mind only needs a gentle return. What began as a method to fall asleep faster became something quieter. Permission to stop performing rest, and simply let it arrive. You carry something new tonight. The knowing that sleep was never a mission to complete. It is a weight to set down, and a calm body, softly breathing, was the real destination all along. Perhaps these gentle steps brought your body a little closer to rest tonight. A soft like, subscribe, or share helps another weary soul find this quiet place too. Someone lying awake, trying too hard, who simply needs permission to soften. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. Right now, without any instruction from you, your body is already releasing what it held all day. The jaw has loosened. The shoulders have fallen. The legs have grown heavy and warm against the bed. None of it needed your effort, only your permission. Let your entire being dissolve into that weight, into the quiet pull of the bed holding all of you now. You do not have to carry a single thing tonight. You can allow these thoughts to settle now, like muscles finally setting down a weight they were never meant to hold through the night. Let your breath slow to the rhythm of a body that has nothing left to do. Sleep carries you toward the place where effort ends and rest simply begins. The quiet hours here return to this same gentle question from softer angles. How a tired body learns, night after night, to let go. The next hour is waiting whenever you are ready. But if your eyes are closed, stay there. Rest well, weary one. You were never meant to force your way to sleep, where science becomes the softest place to rest. Good night.